It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day.
Hey yo, what up? What up? This is your boy JD Jones, and I'm one of your hosts here at Neighborhood Talk.
And I'm your other host, Mocca on the block.
Yo, Mocha, what's the deal over there on this Thursday night? Thursday night, how you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling real good. How you feeling?
I ain't even lie, man. It was 80 like 5 in Detroit yesterday. It's like 60. It's like 52, and I feel it all in my sinuses. But you know what I'm saying? That's just how the fall season go here,
Yeah.
man. You already know. But we want to welcome all of our listeners around the world here at Neighborhood Talk. Here at Neighborhood Talk, we want to welcome all of our supporters as well, but allow us to introduce ourselves. We are the newest, latest, and soon to be most influential Web3 platform to ever exist.
Yes. And I also wanted to let everybody know more about the project. So here at Neighborhood Tales, it's an NFT collection of 10,000 survivors from the Liberty Owl experiments conducted by Stephen Caesar Press and Genma Inc. So what happened was that's 10,000 patriarchs and matriarchs from various diverse neighborhoods in Liberty Owl who have escaped the clutches of Genma Inc. and fled to the outskirts of Liberty Owl. So they remain there until their offspring are born, at which point they'll band together in an effort to recapture Liberty Owl and overthrow Caesar. And also, you own everything in Liberty Owl, from weapons to real estate to vehicles. So in the grand scheme of everything, this is not something you're gonna want to miss.
Man,
Back
at
to you.
all. You don't want to miss this at all. This project is the dopest. But yo, not only is this our space to display our newest and latest projects, such as Neighborhood Tales, as Mocha was talking about, but we share our space with the dopest guests, whether they're heavily involved in Web3 or not, or just learning more about it. And I'm talking about tonight is no exception. Hey, Mocha, let the people know, let our neighbors know who we have the privilege of hosting tonight.
Yes, man, we have entrepreneur her and host. I'm sorry, the infamous KAYCE. So can you let the people know where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Seattle.
Appreciate that. Welcome to Neighborhood Talk. We want to welcome you to our platform. So just to really get things started off, what's your thoughts about Web3 so far? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be very transparent.
Yeah,
I'm still very new to the space and I'm learning.
yeah,
Um, Never really like tapped into that whole world. But I've been blessed to be around people who are very active in the space.
yeah,
And so right now I'm kind of in like the learning stage, and just seeing like where I guess I fit in.
yeah,
I'm super interested. I think it's an amazing space. I think there's amazing creators and amazing people that are in the Web3 space. And, everybody has been so welcoming and, just been and when I say welcoming, like, you know what I mean, everybody is like
yeah,
super down to teach, you know what I mean. uh,
Right.
it's a scary space, and I know that a lot of like my peers and my friends have no idea what Web3 is, um because they're just afraid of not being able to understand it, you know what I mean. And so
yeah,
I had heard of Web3 prior, and hearing it come, from people that necessarily don't speak my language, it didn't make sense to me, right?
yeah,
But when I started to listen to people, you know what I mean, that like I hang around, that speak my language, that broke it down in a way that made sense to me, I was like, okay, maybe it isn't as scary as I thought it was. So again, still learning. If you were to ask me to like explain it or anything like that, I probably wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Straightforward. But I mean, like I said, I'm learning and I'm super open to getting to know the space more.
And I
Yeah.
love that.
What other place in here? We love to teach. We love to talk about it. So anytime, man. So do you? Well, I mean, I know you don't really know much about it, but do you own or plan on buying any crypto or NFTs?
So I actually do have NFTs, and so maybe that's probably the only thing that I really even understand about is the Web3 space, is like the NFTs and utilities and things like that. I do have some crypto, but it was like I like invested necessarily. It was like I was kind of like gifted,
Oh,
like
nice.
here and there to purchase NFTs that I was really interested in, and you know when I was like purchasing NFTs, like even like I purchased on my own, like I minted on my own, like which was like super, like I said, scary for me, but it was like really, it was like fun. And being introduced to so many different communities, like that's really what I was like buying into was like the communities. So
Um,
although I did love like the NFTs and like the art and things like that, it was like really the communities that really pulled me in. And so I do have a nice little collection. I've kind of been on this like, or I was like super, super on the wave of like women NFTs with like colored hair. That was
Yeah,
kind of like my thing, you know what I mean? And I found so many different communities, you know what I mean, that either had like green haired girls or just really, like I said, dope communities that had dope art. And I just loved, everything that, they stood for, whatnot. Um, and some of the utilities. And so, I mean, I have a handful of NFTs and I love them all.
that is super, super, super dope, Casey. I feel like you know more than what you think you know about the Web3 space
yeah,
already. But that's super dope. So here's the thing: we already know that you love sneakers just from sniffing through your profile. But is there any sneaker that you would like to see in the Web3 or metaverse space?
Um, I mean, I know like there was talks of like Nike stepping into the Web3 space and doing
Uh huh.
NFTs and stuff like that. Um, I would love to see how Nike, I think Nike's very creative when it comes to stepping into new spaces. And so I would love to see what that really, can look like at the highest level.
Yeah,
Not necessarily like a specific shoe, but I just think if they were to tap into that world, I think that they would do it. I would hope that they would do it in a very authentic way. Um, and so I would again, I would just be excited to see someone like Nike really, really tapped into this space. And I think they have already, but just
yeah.
like on the highest level of like what they can do. You know what I mean?
It's just the
yeah,
beginning. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
yeah. Digital fashion is something that's gonna. I think that's really what's embedded in the metaverse so far. Like the digital concept, where it's like you can purchase a digital shoe, but
Yeah.
also get the
The
physical
phys-
one sent to your
yeah,
door.
right.
So I think they'll like dabble in that because I know here at Neighborhood Tales we're doing that as well, but that's a different topic. But yeah, so of course we know you love basketball. So I want to ask, when did you first get into playing it?
So I first picked up a basketball when I was well, when I was very little, but I actually started playing when I was in first grade. And I played up, so I played with third graders. My dad really wanted a little boy. I was obviously not a boy, but I was the closest thing. So he just put me into all sports. I fell in love with basketball and kind of rest is history. It was like a bonding thing for me and my dad. And I was like a daddy's girl. And so he coached, he played and like he played in high school and then played baseball in college, but he coached when I was young. And so like I was just him and like that's all I knew. And I fell in love with
Man, that's a cool story of how you got into playing basketball.
it.
Uh, Seriously, with your dad and all that. That's a great, great, great story. Well, how did you get involved with the WNBA and NBA, and what was it? What has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, this it's actually when I think about it for myself, I think it is kind of crazy. And then when I tell people, they're like, "Wow, that's a cool story," right? But it's sometimes when it's your own story, it's kind of like, it's cool, but it's
Yeah,
not, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but actually, so I started off as a ball girl when I was a freshman in high school. It was my first job ever, and I literally would just go to games. I would rebound prior to games. During the game, it was like water, clean up, give them their towels when they come out,
yeah,
time out, all that good stuff, right? And it was like I did that, and it was like the WNBA maybe had like 1, 2 games every week, if that, and then they'd be out of town, and so it was like, it was like really just fun. Like I would have did it for free, but we were getting paid. You know what I mean? So I was like, it was my
yeah,
first job. I ended up doing that all throughout high school. I did it throughout college because WNBA season's in the summer. And so like when I wasn't playing in college, I came back to Seattle and I was working for the Seattle Storm. When I graduated from college, I was like, wow, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I want to stay in basketball, but I'm like kind of like burnt out from playing. Maybe it would be cool to like explore like the front office side, the operational side, the other side of basketball that I've never really got to experience. And so I got a position at the Seattle Storm as the equipment manager and video coordinator. And in the WNBA, like when there's like NBA, there's like 5 people who do one job. In the WNBA, it's like opposite. It's like one person does 5 jobs, so many hats, just because they don't have the money that the NBA has, you know? And so I got to experience a lot of front office stuff. I got to see operations. And I realized that I hated that side of basketball, and I knew I had to get out, or I was gonna literally hate basketball forever. You know what I mean? Because that side of basketball is so ugly. It's so much politics, and it just takes away from like the love of the game.
Yeah.
Um, and at that time, I was like kind of doing social media stuff. But I straight up like the VP at the time for the Seattle Storm came to me and basically was like, "You're a representation of the Storm. Like, make sure your social media is like kind of like in a way like dumb it down. You know what I mean?" And at that time, it was very new, but I still had like a pretty solid following. Um, and I just was like, "Yeah, maybe this isn't for me." Anyways, like basically fast forward 4 years later, WNBA kind of like came full circle, and they kind of started dabbling into the social world, and I already, knew all the people that worked for the WNBA. And so I still had like my connections, my network, and they brought me back for some like hosting stuff with like sneakers, and they were like kind of test piloting a bunch of like social stuff, and I was kind of like the test dummy. Um, and that's kind of how I came back. So everything really came back full circle, but it was just crazy because while I was at the WNBA, they really did not like my social media, and now I'm like getting paid to represent the social media with
Wow.
it as myself. So it's really it's a cool story to tell, and I like to tell that to people just to like remain, you know what I mean, like remain yourself, because
Yeah,
like at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean, like one, you don't want to be doing anything that where you can't be yourself, and two, like eventually people will appreciate, you know what I mean, like
for
you
sure.
so
Yeah, that's beautiful because if you love something, it's never a job.
right. I tell
Yeah,
them, I'm like, if you love what you do, like you will never work a day in your life.
exactly. And I could tell from just reviewing the things that you have like on your social media that you do have a deep love for it, and you wear it every day and you're not afraid of it in the
thank
slightest. And you still remain feminine too.
thank you.
So, um, also I want to ask, what's your favorite female and male basketball player?
The female, I grew up idolizing Diana Taurasi, when she was at UConn. I loved her. Always been a really big fan of hers, and I grew up wearing the number 3. She was 3. And so I've always had like a super, super like tight tie with her. And then again, like being able to like work with the WNBA, I was working around my idols, and so I ended up, creating like a relationship there with her. Um, and some of the other girls. And then male, uh, AI fan, another number 3. But right now, currently, I would probably say, I mean, I'm a LeBron fan.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. I don't really know too much about basketball, but I can track a little bit what people talk about.
Yeah, and I a lot of stuff too with like sports. I think that they're doing a better job of like highlighting athletes outside of just sports, because and that's like one thing I'm like super big on too, is like people are more than just an athlete. You know what I mean? Like there's so much more to them. And I think that it's great that people are starting to get to know these athletes off the court and what they do off the court, because a lot of athletes do some pretty dope stuff off the court, especially in the community. And so, even if you're not like a fan of the sport necessarily, like you can still be a fan of like a player or whatnot, just based off of what they do off the court. So
Yeah,
Right.
that's super dope. I mean, there's a lot to love about LeBron James and what he does on and off the court, right? For the Cleveland community and
right.
just the human as a whole. So I definitely dig what you're saying right there, Casey. Do you have a favorite sports team for WNBA or the NBA by chance?
So NBA, I do not have a favorite team.
Okay.
You guys, like the Sonics were taken from us, some years ago, and so it's very hard for me to have an.
Yeah.
And so anytime anybody asks me that, I literally don't have an answer, because it's just pretty heartbreaking. But hopefully we'll get them back in a couple years. And then I'm like kind of like a super like diehard like Seattle sports fan. So I mean, I'm a Storm fan, but I mean I love is they're a super fun team to watch, and congrats to them for just winning.
Um, So I know that you said that you got to work with your idol. So who's your favorite female athlete that's inspired you the most? Was it her?
Um, Basketball wise, her for sure. Um, as a whole, I think, there's women like Stu Bird and like Maya Moore. Again, women who have done a lot of stuff off the court. Um, you know what I mean? That just make them inspiring just as a woman. And that they're a woman athlete makes them even better, you know what I mean, in my eyes. But like I said, like Diana Taurasi solely as like a basketball player, and then like people like Maya Moore and Stu Bird and people like that who have done really dope stuff off the court. You know, I always idolize women that are super powerful uh, when it comes off the court.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love Simone Biles, although so far from basketball. I love what she do because she sets the tone for other people, and she even have like different moves named after her.
Mm-hmm.
So that just speaks volume.
Right, right. And there's a bunch of dope women that are in the WNBA who have like pioneered, and been at the forefront of a lot of, things that have been going on in the world. You know what I mean? Not afraid to
yeah,
what I mean. I have so much respect for those women. There's so many of them. I think that in general, they do a really good job of like, being the first to speak on things. And sometimes people don't realize that, especially if you're not like really like a WNBA fan, you're not really watching. But a lot of the times, like, when there's stuff happening in the world, the WNBA and the girls that play in the WNBA are a lot of times the first to speak on it. And I love that. I love the bravery. And, I just have so much respect for those women.
that's super dope. No, Casey, I feel like you bring a lot to women's sports today. Is there anything that you're most passionate about in women's sports today that you can talk about?
So I try to be rational when I talk about that, just because it's like, if we're being very realistic, like, will there ever be full equality when it comes, with women and men's sports when it comes to like pay and all things like that? You know what I mean? Like, yes, that's what the goal is. That's what we want. We want,
Yeah,
fair board equality across the board. But we have to be realistic with things, right? Like we have to understand that, men's sports makes a lot of money when it comes to, basketball, football, things like that.
yeah,
And so I mean, I think that it's moving in the right direction. I think you can look at the chart, you can look at the numbers, and you can see how much just viewership has grown, support, you know what I mean? And they say, all attention is good attention sometimes, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
there's a lot of buzz around women's sports right now, women athletes,
yeah,
not just basketball, tennis, swimming, everything, soccer, all that. And so, um, I just, like I said, just making sure the needle is continuously pushed.
yeah,
Um, just, you know what I mean? Like, we're getting closer, right? It's way closer than it was before. And so
yeah,
I'm just interested to see where it continues to go. And I mean, voices keep getting louder, stuff is, continuously changing. And so I'm just happy that it's moving in a very positive direction. And, do I have high hopes that eventually, we can be very, very almost neck and neck? I do have high hopes for that.
yeah.
That's
I mean, look at your influence, though, right? To what you bring to sports as a female, and a lot of your influence is really great in the space, right? And so, I really believe that equality will happen at some point. What scale we don't know, but people like you doing what you do, we really appreciate that in sports, coming from a male's perspective.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's really important, as much as us women, band together and things like that, it is very, very important. And anyone that says it's not is that, that we do have the support from, you know, males, and you know what I mean, that like, someone like Kobe just being able to be someone who spoke very highly of women's basketball. I think it made a lot of people like take a step back and look like, okay, maybe we are missing out on something. You know what I mean? Like, the more voices that, are speaking up about women's sports, I think, it's not going to be something that's done alone. It's,
Yeah, super dope. Hey, we did hear that you actually interviewed Kobe. Can you talk to us about what that was like?
yeah, it was pretty crazy. If I'm being quite honest, it wasn't like no in-depth interview, you know what I mean? But I can say that I did.
Yeah.
I was at WNBA All-Star. I was there solely to really talk about sneakers. Um, talk to the girls that were playing in the All-Star game about sneakers, but not only them, all the celebrities that came through to watch like the game and support like the three-point contest, all that stuff. Um, while or during that weekend. And so Kobe and Gigi showed up right before the All-Star game was going to start. And like I said, I had been interviewing a bunch of the NBA players that were coming through and what they had on their feet, just some really quick, fun questions. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
but it was just very just like I said, like very light, very just cool, chill interviews, which was great because he really wasn't doing interviews that day. Um,
Okay.
I got there a little bit early, and we had no idea he was going to be there. There was buzz that he might have been there, but I'm gonna be real with you. I wasn't like I was always a really really huge fan of Kobe's game, but I necessarily wasn't like the biggest Kobe fan, if that makes sense. And so
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't like super, super like when they were saying he was gonna be there, I wasn't, like, oh my God, I have to interview him. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of glad that I wasn't told that he was gonna be there and I was gonna be able to interview him because I think if I would have known that, I would have freaked out. I literally got thrown in like 30 seconds prior to the pictures that are on my on my Twitter. They were like, he's here. We're gonna get him for like you literally get 2, 3 questions max. We're in, we're out. We're gonna leave him alone. We're not gonna bother him. And I was like, okay, say less. And they were like, all right, let's go. And like that's literally how quick it happened. I didn't get to think about it. And like I said, we really were just asking everybody pretty much the same questions, like, yo, what's on your feet? I asked him who he was excited to watch play in the All-Star game. And then I asked him, I think one other question, again pertaining to sneakers, but it was very light, very fun, and he was super nice. I was kind of intimidated because I didn't know what to expect from someone of his caliber and being
Yeah.
able, not everybody can say they interviewed him. And like I said, I'm not going to blow it up and make it seem like I had this like very, very in-depth interview with him, but it was an awesome experience to meet him, meet Gigi, and just be in their presence. So,
I feel like the organic interviews like really matter, and that sounds like a really organic interview. So that's dope.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I was like, pressure, you know what I mean? Like it was just fun. And he was really happy to be there. Gigi was really happy to be there, and like I said, it was a blessing, and I will forever cherish that moment.
Yeah, like I still think you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like when you said you interviewed him, I'm like, wow, like just imagine like he's towering probably over you. You're probably short and it's like I find it like so like riveting and you just like eh. I'm like, girl, that was like not many people can say that they talked to Kobe or was
Let
like
alone
around him.
interview, right?
Yeah, she's just like, oh yeah, I talked to him. It wasn't regardless of how short it was still great that you were able to be in his presence and other people and just commune with them on their level.
Absolutely. No, I'm super grateful. It was a great opportunity, and um, you know, I'm just again honored to have been in his presence. So.
Right. So yes, about your love of kicks. What are your favorite like nowadays?
Kicks wise, man, I'm still a ones girl, like a Jordan ones girl. I love Air Max 95s. I'm gonna be real, like the older I get, the more I am of like, okay, I love a shoe that's like that everybody wants, but I really am going for that shoe that's the most comfortable if we're being quite.
Hey, I know exactly what you mean.
My pinky toe is gonna hurt all day wearing these,
Yes.
you know what I mean? But now
Yeah.
I'm putting these Air Max ones that are gonna hold me over all day long, and I'm not gonna have to think about it, or I'm gonna throw on these Crocs. You know what I mean? So, like
Hmm.
I said, like if for pictures, going out to events, like all that stuff, of course, like make sure we put on some stuff. But like my go tos are really some Air Maxes. Any type of Air Maxes, I really love.
I love Air Maxes too.
Yeah. All right, y'all sweet, y'all sweet. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. How many pair of sneakers do you actually own, Casey?
So the last time I like actually like sat down and counted was like in high school, and at that time I had 150 pairs of sneakers.
Sheesh.
Damn.
My age would probably tell that was like in 2006, 2007. So yeah, I haven't counted since then, but I have put most of my sneakers in storage. But luckily my storage unit is in my building.
Yeah.
And then I still have like a front room closet which is filled with sneakers too. So
So
Yeah,
probably 500.
it's something crazy, and I still have some at my parents' house too. It's yeah, it's pretty nuts.
All right, those shoe goals for real. Shoe goals for real. You know, just have a
Right.
like walk out your building and just be able to go to the storage. Like, let me see.
Right.
Let me see what I got.
In the boxes still, like the original boxes. I've always loved that, the character of that. But
Yeah,
you you forget about the sneakers that you have. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm like looking through my pictures and I'm like, wait, I have those? Like, wait, I you know what I mean? Like I own these, you know what I mean? Or I'll like go and I'll be looking for a certain shoe in my storage and I'll be like, wait, I have these? Oh, like so it's
shoe Web3. My goal is just really just like to have 500 digital shoes. Like I have 500 digital copies of shoe on the NFT platform of my choice, and then those same amount of shoes in the storage. That's a new goal for me to have my shoes in the storage, Casey. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Right. And if you ever wanted to, like, have your own KC collection, you can put them up on the blockchain and, sell them with
Yeah,
NFTs and, make some money back off of them. Vintage. If you want to put that for like a long term thing, maybe.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like when it comes to like the Web3 space and what the metaverse and things like that, it's like I'm just trying to understand how it makes sense for me and like my brand and how I can, integrate myself into the Web3 space that makes sense, right? And
yeah,
so
Right.
like that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's dope. Like I never thought of that because I'm still understanding the space, you know?
yeah.
So and I love hearing ideas like that. And um spend a lot of time with Baron, and Baron is always like giving me ideas like you could do this on in the metaverse, and you could have this, and you could have a closet, you could sell this, and I'm like, oh, this is so overwhelming. Like,
Hey, well, like if you ever need to, you can always talk to me, anybody from Neighborhood Tales, because we can always do like the Casey collection via like the Neighborhood Tales, because we would pray for it as well, and they're like a clothing brand, so if you ever interested in learning more, and we also work with Baron Davis, so it would be like great if you were ever interested in the collab with us.
yeah, of course. I'm always interested. Like I said, like because I'm still learning, I feel like I haven't even like tapped into like all the dope things that can be done in the space. And so,
Yeah.
things like with like Flip and like 80 ideas and all that stuff, and like it's really endless. You know what I mean? But again, it's like how do I integrate my brand and you know what I mean? Like the things that I'm passionate about, and how do I integrate that in the space that makes sense? If that
Right.
makes
No,
sense.
it make perfect sense. Like I get it. First, you have to learn the game before you can play the game. But sometimes,
Not even
sometimes you have to submerge yourself.
right. Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about like your Savage Fenty and JBL collab, and like how did that come about for you?
Yeah, so a lot of those just are the brands reaching out.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a domino effect, really, and I tell people this all the time that are trying to get to the space. It's like the more you are posting that you're doing paid posts or you do reels where you're promoting product and things like that, other brands will see that and be like, okay, like she does this for other brands. We like the content that she does. Like we want the same type of content, but for our brand, our product, and so that's just kind of how it happens. And then, like I said, it's kind of like a domino effect. And then you create relationships with these brands. And so, I mean, the Fenty thing it was it was very much a step out of my comfort zone. Like posting in lingerie on social media, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, my mom's gonna see this, my dad's gonna see. It wasn't like too risque, but it was still like this is not really my brand. You know what I mean? But I was looking
Yeah.
at like WNBA girls, and you know what I mean? Like they do Sports Illustrated naked. You know what I mean? Like I seen a bunch of WNBA girls that did Fenty stuff. You know what I mean? So it was like it wasn't like I was doing anything like super distasteful.
Yeah.
And I did it in a way that I felt like was still very like respectable and you know what I mean, in the best way that I could while being in lingerie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, and so that was very, very difficult for me to do. But it was like I said, a blessing to work with a brand like Fenty, and then they also had featured me on the site, which was really cool. And so that was amazing. And then recently, the most recent one I did is JBL Doja Cat. The whole campaign was like dare to blank. And I was able to choose like two themes of what made sense for my brand, and so I chose Dare to Hustle and Dare to Relive.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's
so
beautiful.
yep, those were the two I chose.
That's dope. Did Casey, did the eBay partnership come about the same way? Them reaching out to you, or
Yeah. So eBay is actually one of my most consistent partnerships, and I those are the ones I love because for me, I'm super big on being very genuine, being very authentic, and doing all things that are like on brand. Because I believe that all money isn't good money. And I'm not gonna promote anything that I either wouldn't buy, support, purchase, all that stuff, right? And so, like, I've worked with eBay for a really long time, and yes, and this, I think they had reached out to, yep, they reached out to me. I can't remember exactly the very first campaign I did, which actually is kind of interesting. I would be interesting to see what was my first campaign with them, but I've worked with them, I would say, for like the past like 5 years, as they've really tried to like launch their eBay sneakers. I was like part of their first rollout. And I actually think it was like where, yeah, they were rolling out like authentication, verification, stuff like that. You know, trying to be, because I mean, if you really think about like eBay is like the OG when it comes to like
it
retail.
is?
It
It
You know,
really
is.
is.
and if you don't know that, then you're not really a sneakerhead. No, I'm just kidding. But no, and so I think it's like I think that better late than never, but that should have been their market. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They're still, you know what I mean? They're pushing forward and you know that's but yeah, that's really how that started. And then I've just like I said, kept a great relationship with them and so I just get to continuously work with them. So
that's super dope. Like I do feel like they were late to the authentication game of sneakers, like StockX and all those companies had to
Mhm.
jump on that, but you're definitely helping them out in that platform in that area, so that's dope.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And earlier you spoke about like green hair, well, about the different hair. So what prompted you, like, why do you love your green hair?
So green is one of my favorite colors. And then honestly, I get bored really easily, and when I was younger, I used to dye my hair all the time. Like I've had orange, red, purple, silver, pink, uh, I so many colors. I never did green. Green has always been like it was really it wasn't even green that was necessarily my favorite color. It was like that Volt yellow that Nike does was like my favorite color. And I seen a girl with lime green hair, and I was like, oh, that might be fun. You know what I mean? I just seen it like browsing on Instagram, and a local hairdresser actually randomly hit me up the same day. It was like a Friday night, I think, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever thought of dyeing your hair? If so, like I'm down to do it for you. I would love to like change you up. Have you ever thought of green?" And I was like, "This is a sign. This is a sign from God." So I responded back, and he was like, "I can get you in tomorrow at 11." And it was like perfect situation because if I probably would have had any more time to think about it, I wouldn't have done it. Um,
Yeah.
I think it was either the end of 2017 or the end of 2018. I can't remember. Um, but ever since then, I've had green hair. I switched it up
And
once to blue, but yeah, I mean, it's just been pretty much part of the brand. Like, and I didn't realize how much of a part of the brand it was until I went blue. Because it's like you don't kind of like it just like it's like the norm, right? It's like people always hit me up and they're like, "Oh, I seen this green thing. I thought of you. Oh, this green, this should be you. This reminded me of you." You know what I mean? And then
mhm,
when I went blue, I didn't really hear that. And it was like, wait. Like, I feel like I'm missing a marketing piece. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
mhm.
something, I was like, I need to go back. Like, that's my signature color. Like, when people see the green, like, a lot of times I'm associated with it. And so I'm like, this is like such a valuable marketing tool. I got to go back. uh,
Yeah, and it really do suits you. Like it's a very beautiful color on
thank,
you.
thank you.
Um, so we're going to transition to the next portion of our neighborhood talk, which is called Cap or Facts.
Hmm.
It's basically like a series of questions where we'll ask you, and you'll basically respond cap or fact, and you'll give your reasoning as to why you chose the answer. So the first one is the WNBA will keep expanding cap or facts.
Facts.
You gotta say why.
Oh, I mean, just to kind of tap back into what I was saying, I mean, I pretty much have been with the WNBA since like 2003, and I've watched the growth over the years, and it's exponential, right? You know what I mean? And so it has not dropped. If anything, it's just growing and growing and growing. And so I don't see like the momentum is there. I don't see that falling off anytime.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I see the momentum trending upward, and so I'm excited to see what the WNBA and how they'll keep expanding. But the next cap or fact for you, Casey, is ball is life. Would you say that's cap or fat?
Fact. And when I say that, I'm glad I get to elaborate on that because for me, like ball is so much more than life, if that makes sense. And so like basketball for me has taken me all over the world, has introduced me to so many people, has put me in so many rooms that I would have never been in, got me a free education. You know what I mean? Has allowed me to build relationships with people I would have never been able to, friendships that I've had since I was young. You know what I mean? And so basketball really is like my life, but
Yeah,
basketball more than life, if that makes sense. And so like
that's
that I learned on the court that I apply to everyday life, that I apply in when it comes to like professional work and how I deal with people and in professional spaces. And so you know what I mean? Like there's just I was actually talking to somebody else about like basketball players like mathematicians. And I would say a lot of people, like a lot of athletes that like there's a sport or a score involved, like a lot of them are like, you know what I mean? Like if we think about it, it's like we have to think about how many points we got to score in this many seconds in order to tie the game or win the game. You know what I mean? Just thinking that fast and you don't really think about that. So it's just like I've just learned so much from basketball that I apply into everyday life. So yes, ball is
so
like
ball is
I
more than
never thought
life.
about that.
Yeah,
I never thought about that. That's a good perspective because I would have never thought it.
yeah, no, I'm saying somebody was like, you think about it, like you have to, like you're down 6 points with 15 seconds left to go. Like you got to figure out how many possessions you got to score 6 points, which is really 3 possessions or 2 possessions. You know what I mean? Like you just have to like you're thinking like that, like, and it's like that's quick, fast math. And you're having to do this while you're playing back. You know what I mean? Like in the game. So it's like I didn't really think of it like that, but I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Like it's really like, yeah, maybe it's not like really super super in depth math, but it's like it's just you know what I mean. Like there's just so much more to basketball
yeah.
than
It translates to life, like real life. Like,
right
yeah,
teamwork, working, you know, in adversity, working with different types of personalities,
yeah,
the ability to adapt. You know what I mean? Like there's
yeah.
just stuff that comes with and it's not just basketball. You know what I mean? It's just like
Right.
sports in general. So
And it's the physical aspect too,
right,
because it's hard on the body.
right.
But the next question is in regards to the WNBA, more Duncan will take it to the next level. Capper
I'm gonna
facts.
have to go with Cap on that. I think it'd be great. You know what I mean? Like you see, women are able to dunk on 10-foot hoops. Maybe it isn't like like a Vince Carter dunk or something like that. But I think it would elevate the game. But I don't think it would necessarily like completely change the game. So I'm like, I
Got
guess I'm in between.
All right. That's a fair point. All right. Next Capper Facts question for you. Jordan better than LeBron. Capper Fact.
Fact.
All right. All right. You got a little reason of why there?
I mean, LeBron is a beast. I'm a super big LeBron fan. I don't know, but I grew up in the like like growing up. You know what I mean? Like I grew up in that like Michael Jordan era of like watching
right.
Yeah.
highlights. You know what I mean? And just the things he did, what he was able to accomplish with the team. You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know. Like you know what I mean? Like and I feel like so many people like when the MJ documentary came out, like there's so many people that like even guys that played in the NBA that had no idea what MJ did. You know what I mean? And how
Yeah.
crazy of an athlete he was. And so
Right.
and maybe I'm biased because like I said, I grew up in that kind of like that MJ era. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's like
Okay.
go
Yeah. I
go
would
to.
have I would have to give Jordan a slight edge all day too. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, because we did grow up with him, so
yeah.
I'm with Casey. But the last Capper fact is I already know the answer to this, but you got to answer it. The Jordan ones are the best Jordan edition.
Which is crazy because I want to say uh fact, but in all honesty, like my favorite Jordans are the 11s. So I'm
What?
Cap.
Yeah. Wow. I was not expecting that. I'm
I
not gonna lie.
wasn't either. She caught us
11,
off guard.
11s or 3s are like my favorite Jordans of all
Now I gotta be real. I gotta go Google the 11s to see what they look like now.
time. Yeah, go I mean, like I said, I grew up on like in like the Jordan basketball era, and so like there was no way that I could ever hoop in ones. Like yes, I think ones are like I love ones, like they're my go-to, right? But if I was to pick like my favorite number Jordan, I would probably not pick the ones, and I would just not pick the ones just because they're so hyped right now.
All right. So looking at these 11s that I just googled, I can definitely see you rolling with the 11s. These are fire.
They're a basketball shoe, right? Even if
Yeah.
those the 10, they're basketball shoes. You know what I mean? Like so.
Yeah, all right. This has been a great talk. Do you have any final words for our listeners and like how can they reach you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all my stuff is like in my bio. I have a link tree in my bio. It has like my email, I think, everything in it. Um, DMs on Instagram are I'm pretty good at reading them. Not really. Email's probably the best way to get a hold of me. But I try to respond back to everybody that I, can, especially if it has to do with like work stuff or like advice or anything like that. Don't ask me anything about advice in the Web3 world because I can't give it to you. You know what I mean? But anything
Right.
that or
Not yet.
like how to get their foot in the space or what I think maybe some advice to get in the space, absolutely reach out to me. And if there's anybody that can help me understand the Web3 space or how I could, you know what I mean, start to migrate into that space, I'm super open.
Oh, somebody can help with that.
Thank you.
All right,
Super
JD, back
dope.
to you.
Well, no, it's been an absolute pleasure having you, Casey, on our platform here at Neighborhood Talk. And what an awesome opportunity it was to just have a organic conversation with you. And so we appreciate you sharing everything that you shared on our platform. But y'all know how we get down. We claim to be the newest and latest and most influential Web3 platform. So we have to do the newest and latest things. We're giving away $100,000 in cash prizes. All you need to do is be attached to our Discord. Hop over to our Twitter page. Click the link in the bio. There you get all the exclusive updates regarding the cash prizes. It literally goes down on our Discord. We want to make sure you tap into that. That's it for me. Y'all can find me everywhere at JD Jones. Hey Mocca, you already know how I feel about you. It's always a pleasure to host this space with you. And that's it for me, Mo.
Hey man, my pleasure. I always say likewise. So I just want to thank the listeners for y'all coming out to episode 14 of Neighborhood Talks with us. And you can find us at NH Tales on Twitter and Neighborhood Tales on every other platform: IG, TikTok, Discord, LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can catch recordings of the Neighborhood Talks on our YouTube channel. Um, you can find me, Mocha on the Block, on Twitter and IG. I'm sorry, y'all. I also there's someone that asked a question, and I do want to let y'all know that we're going to have an AMA with the creator Cheese himself. So gather all your questions so y'all can come out and chill with the team and just pick our brains of Web3, blockchain, whatever you got. Will be open and available for any and all questions regarding the project and blockchain in general. So, y'all, it's been a pleasure. And until next time.
Peace.
It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood. Would you be mine? Would you be mine? It's a neighborly day.